Going to open the Selectmen's meeting of January 7th. Sorry we're a little tardy, but we're in executive session. And for the press, for the reasons stated on the agenda. You're welcome. We have some announcements tonight. This meeting is being broadcast on local cable TV and recorded for rebroadcast on local cable channels and on the internet. Town clerk released an official 2019 election calendar. It's posted in the 1910 building and online at West Newbury website and on the town clerk's homepage. Nomination papers are available in the town clerk's office. The Cultural Council is looking for community input to help improve and expand arts and cultural opportunities in town. The link to the survey is available on our town website, news and announcements, or on the Cultural Council page. The Planning Board has an opening for an associate member. Interested parties should send a letter of interest to the Planning Board, the West Newbury Planning Board, of course, or email the town planner, Leah, and at her email address, Leah Zamparini at westnewbury.org. And the Bicentennial Committee, we're cranking up. That's right. So get your tickets. The Black Tie Gala celebrating the celebration on Saturday, February 23rd. Please get your tickets. The Bicentennial Committee is buying a block of tickets for the Red Sox Day at Fenway Park, and that's going to be on August 9th, 2019. That's going to be a West Newbury day at Fenway. If interested, please contact the committee via email at wnbirthday@westnewbury.org. The West Newbury Birthday Party and Cake Contest, and I am a judge, and I can be bribed. It's February 24th from 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. at the Pentucket Middle School. So, you know what? I'm probably going to strike that because that will, when I get on, I don't think I do well in jail, and when I get on the stand and they just take that out of context and whatever. Okay, so let's get this. Let's get this thing rolling tonight. For regular business. Oh, I'm sorry. Do you have any announcements? Do you have any extra announcements? No. You guys? Okay, sorry about that. Request for appointment to the Finance Committee, James Spiriakis. Come on up. And could you push the button, please, until that little ring is green. Perfect.
It is indeed green. Well, thank you for seeing me.
Well, thanks for putting an application in.
Thank you to Mary for setting this up. I appreciate it. Thank you.
We usually start by just give us a thumbnail sketch of yourself.
Sure, I'll be happy to do that. So I, as Glenn knows, I used to be quite involved in West Newbury town government in probably 7, 8, 9 years ago, and I was quite involved with Parks and Recreation and the Board of Water Commissioners. I did a term on that, a couple terms actually. Open Space, Mill Pond, so I was kind of involved in town. I stepped away for a while from town government, primarily so I can get more active in my church, which I am at the moment. And now I just think it's the right time for me to kind of step back in. I love West Newbury. I've been a resident for 20 years, and to me it's a great place to live, as all of you would agree. And I would like to get back involved, and I had heard that the Finance Committee had an opening. I think I could be very useful on the Finance Committee. I think I'm quite analytical. I think I'm a good listener, good communicator. I think a pragmatic person, and I think that would be kind of a good fit with my interest and my skill. So I would like to apply for the Finance Committee opening and would like your consideration, obviously.
You have any questions, Joe? Or Archie?
So usually the comments that we make are what's involved in the committee.
Sure.
Finance Committee, I'm just randomly or approximate, not randomly, approximate, maybe meets 20-something times a year. Heavy times that they meet are right before the annual town meeting, basically starting in mid-January through the end of March. Fairly heavy meeting schedule, and then the big full town meeting at the end of October. So it's basically basically after Labor Day through maybe mid-October.
Yeah.
And outside of that, it's kind of randomly, I guess.
Yeah.
Probably about 20. So just so you know the time commitment.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm sure there's probably some take-home work and getting on, the warrant articles and things, and probably in preparation for those meetings and discussions. But yeah, no, I think that certainly will work with my schedule, I believe.
It sounds like from your history that you're well acquainted with meetings.
Yeah, I've got to get reacquainted again, but.
No, but that's good. I mean, a lot of the people we have on the Finance Committee don't have a long institutional memory of the town, a lot of newer people, so this, your background is good, Jim.
Thank you, David. Yeah, thank you.
That's what actually I was going to add to it, the history that you have of the town.
Yeah.
I think we always took that for granted, because we had a lot of people that served for a long time and were, like when Joe and Archie were on the board.
Mm-hmm.
But when you have new members and new people in town, they want to get involved, it's like, oh, wow, you don't, okay, yeah, oh, we did it, oh, okay. Yeah, so we're kind of doing them a disservice by not trying to get a good mix of people that were here for a while, who have been on other committees and understanding and gone through the process. So I think it's terrific.
Thank you.
So, Joe, did you want to make, do you have any other questions or anything?
No,
Can you make the motion, please?
I was just looking to see who he is replacing.
He's not, it's just an open position.
Just an open position.
Right, so the term.
But we don't know if it's a a 2 or a 3 or whatever.
So why don't we do this, let's just appoint him to the open position, and then we can, it is what it is, and it's not going to change, and then we'll just get you that information.
I'm comfortable with that, sure. Yeah.
It's 3 years. Pretty sure.
Oh, I just have, okay, I just have a finance committee. So there's 2 for 2020, 2 for 2019, so it's 2021. So I move to appoint Jim Spiragus through to the finance committee for a term ending June 30th, 2021.
Second. It's been moved and seconded. Any questions or comments? If not, all in favor? Aye. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you very much.
Chairman Kemper, I would just note the next meeting of the Finance Committee, Jim, then is tomorrow night, so.
So are you,
I had a previous commitment. I'm not trying to get there. I'll be late, but I'll try to get there.
so
Okay,
why don't we
great.
do this, though? Then you need to get sworn in, then, if you're going to be there tomorrow night, so, yep, so he can take care of that right now.
I appreciate it. Thanks again.
Thank you.
Take care. The next thing on the agenda is request for appointment, and I think it's a reappointment, isn't it? Of the car post of Richard Atwater, Jr. Atwater. Yeah, it was a mistake on the thing. It's Atwater.
So I move to appoint Richard Atwater Jr. to the Car Post Committee for a term ending June 30th, 2019.
Second. It's been moved and seconded. Any questions or comments? If none, all in favor? Aye. Okay. The next thing on the agenda is a review and recommended improvements to the traffic study at Georgetown Road and Crane Street. Wayne, would you want to come up? You want to lead this, Angus, please?
Sure, I'll just set it up. So we had correspondence from resident Tom Atwood earlier this fall regarding the intersection pictured up on the screen of Georgetown Road and Crane Neck Street. And we had pulled all the accident reports, provided that to the DPW director, police chief, and fire chief. And I would hope that we, in the future, and I said this to Mr. Atwood, we're going to be able to move much more quickly on these things, but with the change in leadership in both Public Works and Police, we had some preliminary recommendations earlier in the fall, and then with the new leadership coming on board, we thought we'd wait and see what they felt. And so I asked Wayne to take a look at this, provided all the accident reports, and I know he met with the police and fire chiefs, went out to the site, so he's going to offer his recommendations. And I did notify Mr. Atwood that this would be on tonight. So and I should be clear, his recommendation was to go to a 4-way stop in this location. So that was kind of the starting point for the analysis.
Okay. Wayne?
And I think we should say his reasoning for so doing, because there had been a couple of serious accidents there 3 or 4 years ago, which we attempted to address by changing the position of the stop signs and adding stop sign warning signs, I guess you'd call them.
Yeah,
is,
like stop ahead or stuff.
Yeah, and so his reasoning for requesting further work on it was that he saw someone a couple of people run the
Stop sign.
run the stop sign.
Okay, Wayne?
So I did look at the accident, the crash reports, and they went back 5 years ago at least, and the 3 accidents that did occur out there were all cited for a violation. So when I look at, see if they're cited off, they were driver engineering error. Stop sign was behind a telephone pole, pavement markers were poor, bad lighting, we look at all that stuff. None of that was cited on any of these reports. They cited, running the stop sign, yield to stop, speeding, negligent driving. So these are 3 crashes that happened because of driver's error. Maybe they were on the phone, maybe they were driving much too fast. So it's tough to correct driver's error. But we still look at the intersection as a whole. What can we do to improve the intersection? So I went out there with the police chief and the fire chief a few weeks back. We came up with some ideas. Was to replace the stop signs. They were already in large signs. We go with the same size and just make them more reflective. We can move the stop bar back a little bit. Right now, they cannot be in the intersection, and they are. That's the problem, is they're right. If you look at the sketch here, the actual stop bar is literally in the intersection. And as MUTCD says, they have to be within 4 feet back up to 30 feet back. I wouldn't recommend we push it back to 30 feet. But I was proposing 10 to 15 feet back from the intersection, replace the stop signs with reflective stop signs, and put the stop signs where the stop bar is. Right now, the stop sign does not line up with the stop bar. Try that and see if we hear some positive feedback out there of what was done. When I went out there and looked quickly, to meet the always stop warrant, you have to have a certain number of crashes per year that are correctable accidents. Drunk driving.
Can you speak in
Drunk
to the-
driving.
Bring the microphone closer to you.
Drunk driving,
Wait, just
Yep.
pull it, yeah.
drunk driving, speeding, be on the phone, those are not correctable crashes. But if there is 5 or more correctable crashes, then it warrants a stop sign per year. Volume, if you have like a 50-50 split, warrants a stop sign. This one, we believe you probably have more traffic on Georgetown Road than you do Crane Neck, but again, I was just sitting out there for a half hour. I didn't do data collecting. That can be done if we want to go there. We just weren't sure if we wanted to go to that extreme right now, because it didn't seem like it warranted at this time. Because believe it or not, the 3 crashes is considered low for a 5-year period at an intersection. Extremely low. It's just that the accidents we have out there are severe accidents, so they seem
They seem a little bit more.
they seem like they have some, they should take some seriousness with them. But neither one of those accidents that were out there were correctable accidents. I couldn't have stopped the person looking down at their phone. I couldn't have stopped the speeder. There are accidents that happen based on driver's error.
Well, we could have stopped the speeder if there was a 4-way stop sign.
If they were going to stop at the stop sign.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Do you have, I know, Archie, you had some
yeah.
questions, because the email over the weekend. You want to take it up?
So,
Do you want to bring your mic? You want to take your microphone? Yeah, thank you.
I went out there yesterday afternoon, and you can faintly see the existing line, and the stop sign line's right up with that. So I had tape measured. I went back 10 feet from that and put the nose of my car right at that point, and heading north coming down the hill on Crane Neck Street, heading north at this intersection. If you bring the stop sign back the stop line back that far, your visibility to the right to see oncoming traffic on Georgetown Road, because of the angulation here, it's not a 90-degree angle, it's incredibly limited versus what it is at the moment. So bringing it back, I think, is actually making the problem significantly worse. It doesn't change it so much on this at this side, but bringing it back here, I think even 10 feet, because of the angle of the road, I think it's really a bad mistake. I could maybe see to here, back at this point, you pull up a little bit more, you can see way more down Georgetown Road. So I think it's a bad idea.
What's the structure? Is it a rock?
There's a swale.
I think it's more
It
the
is
topography
cleared
of the
here,
thing.
it has been cleared here, but remember, this is the winter, so the leaves are actually gone here. Now, it's gonna be worse in the summer, and even now, I could maybe pulled back, I could maybe see here, you pull up, and you could see way up to say where it says road up there. It makes a tremendous difference being able to pull up close to that intersection. And I don't think it's legal to have a stop sign, a stop line, and then to have to creep up in order to see to make the turn. I don't think there's anything in driving that you stop, creep up, and then turn. I don't think that's legal.
Okay, Joe, did you have anything?
No, I was just listening to what it said.
You have any questions or anything? So your recommendation would be pull it back? Is that what
I would, because right now, if you stop at the stop bar, your front end is actually in the intersection. So if you come in, I think that's eastbound down Crane Neck, and you stop at the stop bar, your front end is actually in the intersection.
Do you have any thoughts on how to address what Art just said?
Well, we don't have to go 10 or 15 feet back. The manual says at least 4 feet. The manual says at least 4 feet back from an intersection or a crosswalk, which we don't have a crosswalk out there now. I think the issue with stopping and not seeing is it's more common than you think. If you start driving around here and you see where we have the stop bars coming out onto 113, especially if you have a crosswalk there, sometimes it is tough to see because there's something in the way. People start crawling over the crosswalk so they could see. So look at some of the side streets as you're coming out onto 113 where the stop bar is when there's a crosswalk there, because it does back you up behind the sight line.
So what are we trying to do here? We're trying to make the intersection safer, I guess, for people coming on Crane Neck. Tom, you have a meeting tonight?
Yeah.
Excuse me. Did you want to speak to this at all before you meet? Your meeting starts at 7:30, right?
Yes.
Why don't you? Can you hit? I just texted him and asked him. I knew you had a. I saw the Concom going up. Can you press that button until the green ring? Just a brief press. Hold it. Just hold it for a minute. There you go.
Okay, there we go.
Okay.
No, I want to thank Angus for responding to my original email. I just want to bring this to the attention of the selectmen and the DPW and the police, especially because there were 2 accidents within the last 10 years that were quite serious at the intersection. And the day that I was coming home from work, I was coming north on Crane Neck Street, and the person that was coming south, they're heading towards the Christmas tree farm. It was obvious that they had no idea that there's an intersection and went through it right at 30 miles an hour. So it made me realize that even though the DPW did a great job cutting back brush at the intersection, they did move up the lines quite a bit, so people stop and make sure that they see both ways quite clearly, that there was still an opportunity for potentially an accident. And the concern is that if someone's coming along Georgetown Road and all of a sudden they get sideswiped at 30 miles an hour, that could be quite serious, as what's happened in the past. But
Okay.
I understand that folks have gone out, looked at the intersection, and thought that just changing the signs would be the best. That's something for the professionals to decide, but I think that this is an intersection where there has been a history of accidents, and you might want to consider that.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks, Tom. Thanks. Have fun at Concom.
Oh, thanks.
So that's my point. Like, what are we trying to do? So we're trying to make it a safer intersection, obviously, right? So do we think, I understand what the regulations say, but do you think pulling it back is going to help because maybe the way it's configured. What about, like, I don't even know if we have dangerous intersection signs up. I don't think we do, something like that. Or a yellow line across both sides that says, you know, one of those big things that almost looks like a crosswalk. You know what I mean? That makes people stop.
What is that, Glenn?
You know, like on the road, that kind of makes people stop. So I think the problem is that everybody gets happy and it's a nice country road and they come across a stop sign and they don't see it and they just kind of.
So that's
I
the
think what I'm
complaint that
yeah,
we had.
yeah.
That's the complaint that the police chief
What I'm
said.
hearing is that it doesn't really matter if there's a stop sign there or not, or where we place a stop sign. These people are just blowing through the stop sign. So,
Well, that was the standard, that was the
yeah, that was all the
The issue
complaints.
out
It's
there
not like
was-
somebody said, "Oh, I didn't see the stop sign." They're pretty visible, right? You have.
they are still visible. At night, it's less visible because the reflectivity is cut down dramatically. So we should.
What about signs that would say dangerous intersection coming up? Or is
Dangerous intersection tells, it puts liability, it just says you admitted that your intersection's dangerous, you're not gonna fix it. So I removed.
But how are we going to fix
I
it?
removed like 50 of those in my career already. It says that you recognize an intersection is dangerous and you're not fixing it, you're just telling people it is.
Well, that
But-
was, I never,
Okay,
I never said that.
No, I didn't say it either.
But you understand what I'm trying to say?
I
So
know what
I
you're
don't
saying.
know.
I think
So I
that-
don't know about moving the line with.
The issue was also,
Yep.
I think we get two issues. People are not paying attention to, there's two things. People are not paying attention to the stop signs always on Crane Neck, and they're going faster probably than they should be on Georgetown because it's being used as a thoroughfare to skip going, to skip.
I go into Georgetown that way.
Yeah, well, they skip 113, they don't have to go around the traffic at Pentucket at whatever time, so that's why they're going on that road.
And you're going so fast, because you are going fast, it's a beautiful stretch of road, that you don't have time to react if somebody comes out.
Yeah. I mean, the only way it would meet the warrants, and I don't know what it is, if we did the turning movements at the intersection and count them first and see if it meets the warrants. It doesn't meet the crash warrants, doesn't meet the ped warrants because there's nobody crossing there. It does, so the only warrant I could see could meet, and that's if we do a volume count out there. You count the cars entering the intersection,
How many would you need?
50%, 60-40.
If
You
I
need
might, Glenn.
close to a split.
Question on MUTCD, is it a guideline? Is it an absolute? I know on state roads you need to meet warrants, but for a local road.
It's a shall be, it's not a could be, it's a shall.
But
So
you
the
would-
warrants are pretty strong on a stop sign. They don't leave it open, and they say it's not used for speed control, that is in the warrant, that's in the warrant. A stop sign shall not be used for speed control, so that's in the warrant itself.
So if that's the case, what else can,
You got always stop option if it meets the warrant. If it doesn't meet the warrant, if it doesn't meet the stop sign warrant, it won't meet the traffic signal warrant, and none of us, I don't think, want to go there. Improve signage, I don't believe we have any warning signs even on Georgetown about an intersection ahead.
So why don't we do that? I mean, every time when
Yeah.
I'm up in New Hampshire, no matter no matter, you're on one of these farm roads like that, every single little
That's why.
road coming around a corner, right, has, you know, this,
Yep.
or the cross or something like that. Why don't we do that on George, that's actually a good idea, do that on Georgetown.
And so sometimes they'll put the street underneath it. If you look, they'll have the X and they'll put the street, so
Yeah.
you know what street you're coming.
So
That's what
somebody
we're
knows
doing.
there's a,
Yeah.
an intersection coming up.
One of the other tools is lower the speed on Georgetown. I don't know what it is. I think it's 35, but I have a feeling that Mass Highway, we wouldn't meet the, Mass Highway would probably say probably be
No,
higher. So I don't know if we want to go there, because if we did,
I think we even tried to do that, didn't
Yep.
we?
I think, yeah.
so,
So why don't we do this? Why don't we put some, well, if we're in agreement, warning signs that the street's coming up on Georgetown Road. I think that's pivotal, I think.
it doesn't hurt. It's not going to hurt us. It's not
No,
gonna
but I
work
mean,
against us. It might warn the person who's doing 38 miles an hour to look to see if somebody's coming out of the side
Yeah,
street.
somebody in
blowing
a
a
mo-
stop sign,
Yeah.
blowing a stop sign. Maybe they're not aware of that intersection until it's too late, when someone's
Exactly.
flying through
But
it.
like, if somebody's 9 out of 10 times, or even, 99.9 people are aware and they look at signs. If you're on a motorcycle or stuff, you do it even more. Most people look at signs, especially if they're not from around here. If you're from around here, because that was another thing, one of those accidents, the person wasn't from around here. They didn't even realize that. So, they weren't warned, they didn't realize this was a full-way, an intersection or whatever it was, when there was a real serious accident.
Yep.
So that would help. I would put them on both sides.
Both, yes, we could do that.
On Crane Neck too?
Yeah.
Okay.
The road coming up, whatever. Well, they know. There's a stop sign, it's pretty hard for them not to know, I don't know. But I think I agree with,
That people, yeah, okay, it could be, I was gonna say, someone coming north on Crane Neck, they, unless they were completely lost, you wouldn't be on Crane Neck and you didn't know where
you'd be going,
yeah, you just
So-
landed from space, because it's a
So,
dead end.
I kind of agree, unless it's a Shelby thing, whatever, I kind of agree with Archie on this, that I don't mind where the stop signs are. They were back where I think you wanted them before.
They were back like 20-something feet, if you
Yeah,
look at the
so-
existing ones.
So I kind of like the fact that they're there and people kind of inch out and kind of see where they stop rather than stopping back.
Because if they stop, then that makes.
Then they kind of go, when they don't see anybody, then they go, and then all of a sudden, there is kind of a couple of blind spots there, I would agree.
There is. So what do you think about only 4 feet back on each approach? And that would follow the warrant, and that would follow the warrant. So if somebody does get clipped
Yeah,
out there, it's not our fault. We put it back
I did
4
it
feet.
Okay.
I did it 15.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it follows the warrant, so if somebody gets clipped, it's not our fault.
Not our- we
And then
followed
put-
it.
And then we put the other roads approaching signs, whatever they're called. Sound good?
Yeah, and we'll replace the stop signs while we're out there anyhow.
What, to
Because
make
they're
them new and
faded.
more reflect, oh, they are?
They're faded.
Okay,
So-
cool. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Can you ask, your building and grounds guy, I think his name is Brian Richards, when he's not taking a nap or something like that? Can you, he yelled at me at the food run at 5:30 this morning, so I'm trying to get him back, about the taxes in this town. Can you ask him to fix this leather chair?
I will.
Before, this has been bothering me for like 3 months. There's
the-
like a hole in it. It just needs something on it. It's brand new leather chairs that I think they were jammed underneath the table, and then it ripped it, and it's just gonna
Okay.
ruin it. Okay, thank you. Little things in life make me happy. Okay, thank you, Wayne. I appreciate you coming in. Oh, I'm sorry. You guys have any more questions?
No, that's good.
How's life? Everything going well?
Great.
Good.
No
Yep.
snow's even better.
Yep, we like that. Well,
We,
well, it always makes up though. We don't get the snow, but then we get these ridiculous little ice storms that these. And we get phone calls from that guy down in Pentucket. Oh, the next thing up is, come on, Pawtucket Regional School District request to consider entering a memorandum of understanding regarding a permit and inspection fees for a proposed school building project. You want to come up? You want us to talk about it? Angus, you want to talk about this?
Sure, yeah, this is an issue that came up probably 6 or 8 weeks ago initially.
Well, let's not call it an issue.
Oh, yeah.
Let's just call it a conversation.
Sure. So the school building project, if you apply the inspection department, it's a percentage of construction costs, which ends up being a pretty large number. And I don't think that's in anybody's interest where it's a taxpayer and state-funded project. So we started talking about, is there something that could be done other than just a strict application of the fee? And the policy that the board had adopted some years ago did actually exempt public projects or town projects from permit fees, but carved out an exception for, quote, large projects such as a school renovation project. I think there's a history on that I don't think is maybe applicable here. So basically, the spirit of the request is, would the board and the school committee like to enter into an agreement that basically sets out a process whereby we would be made whole of any direct expenses, meaning inspection costs that go above our budgeted staff, as well as any need for outside third-party inspections. So that's That's the
So
idea. It's a
an
starting
understanding
point.
of that is if our electrical inspector was, if we're budgeted 18 hours a week for an electrical inspector, but that particular week, it was crazy down at the school and we had a billion things that we needed inspected, and he had to work 24 hours that week and attributed to the school project, then we would bill them for, we would bill them for 6 hours.
That's what's set out.
I'm
It's
I'm
obvi-
giving you
yes.
an example
Yep,
of something we
yep,
can discuss.
That's right, yes.
So, so it just, we're not gonna bill him for hours that were already budgeted because he'd be doing his job anyway. But anything that would be extra, we would have to be made whole, which I think is,
Let's talk about that, though.
oh, but that's why
Yeah.
I brought it up, so you could have an understanding. Because I don't know if I even wanna say this, so I probably shouldn't, but I'm going to, at the amount of money that the school, 2 schools, we have to remember that we always have to say 2 schools, there's 2 schools being built.
Middle school and high school.
Yeah, middle school and high school, not just a high school, that's why the number is what it is. The cost would be like $3.7 million in permit fees.
Yeah, I've got the exact costs.
If we worked out, like, if somebody was building a garage on their house, and how that works. So, that's ridiculous.
If I could just say one more thing to hopefully frame the conversation. The goal tonight isn't to have agreement to terms. The goal is to make sure the board is open to an MOU that's other than the fee schedule. And then Mike McCarron is working on a draft that would then be put forward, I presume, at the next meeting. So
We
I
run
think
that through our school.
getting some input is terrific, but I don't want, tonight, there's not an expectation that you guys are going to vote an
But
agreed
let's talk about it
terms.
so that Mike
Yeah.
can be on the,
So we get
all on the
an
same
idea.
page.
Yes, exactly, yep.
MOA, that we don't, is there anything you'd like to speak about it before?
No,
we
I
start?
just appreciate the time and consideration. I mean, we ran the numbers as well, and just considering that would tack on an extra $2 million, more than $2 million to the taxpayers just seemed a little bit alarming,
Yeah.
just based on that fee schedule. And that was just from this part thing, so.
Okay, so as a hypothetical, what Glenn said, so say though that the electrical inspector had to spend 2/3 of his or her week on the school project versus and
Couldn't get to the ones behind the Legion.
exactly. I mean,
I thought of that.
In other words, maybe that individual, in order not to run over their budget, is okay. I'm going to do my 18, but then it's going to, because this is a significant project, that it's going to limit the capacity to. In other words, other stuff is going to get put on the back burner, and so it is actually costing the town money, even though it
Doesn't seem
isn't.
like it.
It doesn't seem like it. Yeah.
Well, my point being that all town stuff would have to be done first, or it would have to be calculated. So if he's doing that, so it would all be, he would have.
Say that again, Glenn. So
So all the town stuff, like the stuff, just say the stuff behind the Legion, coming to somebody's house to re-inspect something because he put an addition on, or a barn, or something like that, all that stuff has to be budgeted within the 18 hours, okay? And then anything that goes over that, or even under that, so just say he did all that work and it was only 14 hours that week. Because remember, the electrical inspector, it's not a salaried employee. They only get called. Those are budgeted hours, but they don't get paid for 18 hours a week if they don't work.
correct. Yeah. Right.
Okay, so they're not working, so they're not getting paid. They're budgeted, right? So there has to be some good timesheets that are involved in that everything in the town comes first. And anything over 18 hours is we have to be made whole. But then again, now I'm going to play the devil's advocate because I think we need to, is then, well, why aren't we charging them for every single hour? Because those budgeted hours, if something wasn't going on at the school, they wouldn't be working, and that money would be going back at the end of the year.
Right. See, if
So I had to ask that
the inspection department is, if you if you talk to Glenn, he sets out his annual budget with the idea that it will be essentially self-supporting, that not to make a giant profit for the town or not to in other words, that the fees are supposed to support the inspection department. That's,
It's a user tax, so to
Yeah.
speak.
So
And-
it should be the same premise. I mean, that's what it is.
Yep.
Yeah, so the idea here is if Glenn shows up and has to do inspections at the middle high school, that we would pay his hourly rate while he's there doing those, and like you said.
Yeah, but Glenn seems to work 30 hours no matter what. I think it's, I think Glenn's more of a salary person,
So-
and the other people,
And I know
more
that,
of the hourly people. Glenn always gets 30 hours, right?
that's right.
But
And
the electrical inspector, the plumbing inspector, they don't always get the 18 hours.
it's actually
that's budgeted.
13.
Oh, well,
13.
okay,
Yeah,
sorry.
yeah, I know it was a placeholder number, but it's 13.
So it's, so they don't always get the 13 hours.
Right.
So I would do the building inspector, anything over 30, you know what I mean? And then maybe the other ones a different way, because, as needed, because we wouldn't, the other ones, we wouldn't be paying for them, but Glenn gets the 30 hours no matter what.
I mean, yeah, I mean, I think it makes sense to me. I mean, I'm ready for it with the MOU, Mike should draft it. And look at this.
But do you have a good understanding how we feel about this? Do you, Archie? Does that feel good with you?
yeah, I mean, and on a sort of different note, maybe Mike could address this. Is there, and I don't know at all, is there some kind of conflict of interest where the town employee is inspecting something that then is affecting the town budget at all, or?
No, because he inspects, it's more state law too. He inspects the paid school, he inspects our buildings, there are provisions that he has to do. He inspects everything.
No, but in other words, if he I'm just doing a hypothetical, if he let something ride, it would save the district money and then thereby save the town money, is that, I'm just throwing that out. I'm probably completely wrong.
I don't think he would do that because he has ethics that he has.
No, I
to-
know, but is that a problem? I don't know. Yeah.
I would assume that he would have a problem if he did that to anybody in town. If he did it to a friend, or if he did it to a building, it would be the same thing.
Okay, that's a good point. Yeah, okay.
So no, I have, Mike?
Just, I guess there's
Hold on, don't speak until you get there, please.
one question on it. Are you advocating for a MOA that says that they would pay for any additional non-scheduled hours that are related to
Yes.
the school, or versus just hours related to working for the school?
Well, I think it depends on, are you talking about Glenn, or are you talking about?
Everybody.
I think I heard Glenn Kemper say that if it's above 30, but Glenn Closey, if it's above 30 hours. But then on the other inspectors, it's what they are.
Okay, because they're two different concepts.
Yeah.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Because Glenn always, my point being is Glenn always seems to be here. He always gets his 30 hours. The electrical inspector, the plumbing inspector, which I guess is our gas, they're as needed. I think they have office hours, right, that
Okay.
they're here for, and that would not change, and we wouldn't expect them to be down at the school during their office hours because contractors or whomever come and see them during their office
Okay, so I
hours.
just want to be clear as to what people want.
Yep.
So you're saying, with regard to Glenn, any hours above his regularly scheduled hours?
Correct.
But with regard to the other inspectors, any of the time that they actually worked on the school project?
Correct.
Do we have any idea has Glenn given any guesstimate as to what kind of
Man hours?
effect this would have on his workload? Yeah.
I've talked with Glenn about that and encouraged him to get together with the project architect. Really, the missing piece has been the construction manager when we last were in touch. And I know they were selected last month, but they weren't under contract yet.
Still not on it, we're waiting to have them sign the paper, they're working, but
Because I think the construction manager working with our building inspector, that's going to be the best way to estimate what's the level of effort that's likely to be needed during this project.
Let's
It's going to
get
be a lot.
that, let's all, let's draft something, but let's also get an idea that, maybe this is gonna be like a minor issue, or maybe it's gonna be a monumental amount of time. We don't know.
Have a subcontractor or
Yeah.
something like that. We might not be able to
So I
handle
think,
it.
I think overall, from the district standpoint, we're happy to pay for the time that the people are going to be there, especially Glenn's above and beyond the electric and plumbing, as they need to be there. But overall, the fee part was the part that was driving that price up.
So, Mike, can you not leave,
Yeah.
please, for 1 second? Now, is there a way that we could maybe talk to the other towns, and that could be part of when we have a meeting with them on the 24th? Is there a way that if we're not available or something, we all can kind of pull together our building inspectors, or that doesn't work? It has to be from the
No,
town.
there's cross assistance with regard to building inspectors. So if Glenn's on vacation, for example, then
We pull somebody else in.
You have one of the other ones do it. So, I mean, that's how they do the coverage.
Well, to be able to-
Same thing is true with regard to all the inspectors. You have
The health and-
assistant inspectors that are available in case someone's on
So
vacation.
would we have to, like, I don't know, deputize them or
Well,
appoint them?
we already do that.
No, but.
So, but my
like
point- my
the
point being
Groveland
would-
one now, if we wanted to have that available.
My understanding is we already have.
Oh, okay.
Appoint assistants.
So, but my point being is that to try to keep the cost down, I think the taxpayers would like to hear that, maybe like to hear something like that we're gonna try to work with all the other towns and the inspectors, that maybe they have a couple of extra hours, or we all can chip in, rather than paying, you know what I mean by that? I don't know. I don't know how much,
I think the only
We
thing.
may be
find out how many
speaking,
hours they do.
Glenn, you may not be, you may be speaking for, the other,
I-
other
I-
people may not agree to that.
well, that's what I'm saying. Can that even happen before we suggest it?
I would think that Glenn would probably bark at that only because you want to keep everything consistent in one place. So even when you have an assistant inspector from some other town, he's actually acting as West Newbury.
Okay.
Okay.
Especially he's filing the paperwork here.
I got
doing
you.
Everything's here, so.
So we're in,
One office.
we're
say, though,
interested in it, and we'll bring something up.
It's great. I would say the other two towns, I think, would be very happy if we did not have those fees. So I'd be happy to let them know that piece.
No, we will. We just have to be made whole, I think, and that's not a
But I think on that note, Glenn, one thing I heard tonight, which differs somewhat from what has been set out, is, I'm interested now to look back of Glenn Clossey's time, roughly what percentage of that, is typically billable, if you will, or, what percentage is he out generating inspection fees versus doing work in the office? Because I don't think we want to end up with less revenue, because it is a self-supporting department. And so I think the construction manager is going to have an important role to play.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
We're going to confirm a meeting date and objectives for the joint meeting with Groveland, Merrimack regarding the PSRD regional agreement and contingency planning and school project, the building project. The meeting is on the 24th of January. It's at some place down at the district. We don't know exactly where it is, and it's going to be at 6 p.m. Angus, do you want to speak to it?
Sure, there are two, this has been under discussion for probably 2 months, trying to pin down a date everyone could agree to, and there are really two major issues that we think will benefit from having the three towns' leadership together. The first is to review the contingency planning. The superintendent shared a draft. That's very much a working document, and he's continuing to get input from his committee as well as from the public, as well as from this board. So I know you just got it recently, but if you have thoughts on that in the days ahead, by all means, send them my way or send them direct to Justin, whatever you prefer. But that contingency planning is anticipated to lead to recommended amendments to the regional agreement. And the superintendent's aware that that would require a town meeting vote, and has been advised that the more specific they can be on proposed language is going to be helpful, so that this board and the other two boards have something specific to respond to rather than a generalized conversation.
On the 24th.
On the 24th. He's aware that the warrant, deadline for warrant articles is February 13th, so we don't have a whole lot of time to get to those specifics. But the contingency
Okay.
planning is one big piece of this, and then the other, of course, is the school project and just coordinating timing and communications in the months leading up to the votes.
So, okay, there's two aspects there. So, do we want to have a really good in-depth conversation of what we want to talk to the other selectmen about the project on the 22nd? And have that on the agenda for that? And the other one is that the other aspect is if you think there is going to need to be some changes in the regional agreement, which I think you think there is going to be for this contingency plan, we need to have that language on the 24th, because that's going to be a big part of the conversation. We can't start that conversation that night, and then at least we're all in the room together at that point. Please. I'm sorry. Come on, I should have invited you up in the beginning. I should have never let you leave.
No, absolutely. I think for the contingency plan, the idea is to put into the regional agreement some general language that cites a contingency plan. Now, that contingency plan we'll talk about in more detail, but would shift from year to year based on what's happening in each building and the population changes and things like that. But we just wanted in the agreement to make sure that in the event something happens, that all three towns have agreed that we can default to that contingency plan, which each year we'll share with you. But there's some pieces on the contingency that initially if you've seen the slideshow, that was an initial thing out to the school committee, just to get any of their feedback and to get feedback from whoever might take a look at it, and that was just for one building. We've got, I think the next school committee, we'll put together some other contingencies, but for the most part, the high school, followed by the middle school, are the two most at-risk buildings. So the language adjustment would be just minimal, but just referencing a contingency plan in that section of the regional agreement.
I think there might be some questions that night also about like how realistic is it?
Sure.
You know, this is not a scare tactic that we need a new high school or middle school. I mean, I've been through the tours and stuff. This is not. This is somebody being very proactive and realizing that if in case something does happen, which has happened with the Page School, that we really, the regional agreement doesn't speak to that, and you want to make sure that it's laid out.
That's right. Page School is a perfect example of that. Last year, that happens unexpectedly, and everyone's kind of trying to figure out where are we going to go. Happened to Donahue 7 or 8 years ago, same type of situation. And you're right, coming from the outside, looking at these buildings and seeing what we're dealing with and reading the independent reports, it's not a scare tactic. We just need to be prepared, because even if when the building project, if the building project passes, we're not out of the woods. There's still a reality that high school will fail, and it's just a matter of when. And if the project, we have to get to 2022 with that current high school.
With that ice, it's still a long time.
That's right. So for the next 4 years, I don't sleep too well.
So, I mean, I was thinking, just so that it seems like it's not being created out of whole cloth, maybe it would be a good idea to see if any other regional districts have similar plans. Do you know if they do or anything?
Yeah, so I'm not sure specifically if they don't, I don't think they post them necessarily, but I'm sure everyone has a contingency plan. I mean, you think about the emergency plans that school districts have, every event there's some place that people are going, but for our situation, I don't know that Pentucket's ever had anything specific as I'm getting it, but other districts, I'm sure I can take a look and see what they've got, but
Maybe more generic.
it's yeah, because our situation's so unique about where people would have to go.
Okay. If it makes you, I mean, I've seen these flex sale commercials. They can hold together like a
Yeah.
dune buggy, so I don't know if you should buy some of that. It makes you sleep better at night, I'm not sure.
Yeah, we'll need a lot of it.
Okay, I just snorted. I can't believe I just snorted. Okay, so do we feel comfortable about that?
We'll make a boat, and you can go out in the Merrimack, and we'll see how well it works for the commercial.
That's fine. Okay, any other questions? You have any, Joe? Okay.
Yeah, and thank you for being able to attend that meeting. That's, I think, a really important. We get it brought up here.
Well, we haven't said that we're going to go yet.
If you would, that'd be great. Let me just tell you.
Now, we'll be there with bells on.
So could you just clarify,
It's the 24th, the selectmen's meeting is the 22nd. That's our next meeting that we're going to talk kind of and say, hey, what do we want to bring as a board to that meeting? And the 24th at 6 o'clock, somewhere at the district, but that's not, it will be a posted meeting, obviously, because. Correct.
No.
I think we talked about the administration, but
Me, myself, Greg LeBrecq, Greg Haddon.
Because it's the town's agreement. Yeah.
I mean, it's a public meeting, obviously anyone can
Everybody
go,
can
but in
go.
terms of managing a good discussion with 3 elected boards, seemed like that was a tall enough task.
Yes, it was. We'll see how it turns out.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Pawtucket Arts Foundation requests for comments regarding tape art project. Did you want to speak to that, Jen? Do you want me to bring the microphone over? Do you want,
I mean, do you have any questions about it? I just wanted to update you.
Sure, come on up.
I thought it sounded kind of cool, that's all my only.
It's gonna be very cool. We did hear from Food Mart and they are in, so.
Oh, good.
Yeah, we're still waiting to hear from Merrimack and Groveland. They also got letters, but, we'll at least have a Food Mart. It's gonna be very cool. I hope you mark your calendars. So you'll be there next, July.
Okay, is there going to be any part of that bicentennial thing in those dates, or no?
Yeah, we're gonna start off doing the history and heritage. We're leading that off with our film,
Yep,
The Voices of West Newbury, and promoting the tape art at that session too. That's July.
perfect. Thank you.
All right.
And there were, Jen did have a couple of questions in there that if people have thoughts, you can respond offline in terms of, historians who might have ideas, that kind of thing.
Okay,
Yeah, thank you. As we get to that, I will follow up with you guys.
okay. We can post it on our website and so forth, and whatever we need to do.
It's been a while since I wrote that letter.
Pawtucket Arts Foundation, that one's done. So review Board of Selectmen's FY 18 year-end report.
I thought it was fine the way it was written. The only comment that I have is the word upheaval. And my thinking is,
Why would that?
whether it was an upheaval or not an upheaval, I mean.
It's not a good way to
is
say
that is,
Yeah.
is it appropriate to put it in a report? I would tend to not put it in there.
I like Joe's comment, it's good, yeah.
Okay, yeah, I would agree.
We have to vote on that?
Sure.
You want to do it, Archie?
I move to approve the annual town report as written except for the word upheaval in the first paragraph.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Okay,
And just to take the opportunity to provide a brief update on the overall town-wide report, it's coming together very nicely. Mary's been doing a lot of work on that. There are, other than the outside audit, there are just three ingredients that she's still waiting on, and she's given each of those entities a hard deadline so that she can close it out. And
okay. Request for fee waiver of town employee rent, Old Town Hall for child's birthday party on January 19th. Is there any way I don't have to see one of these things ever again on a selectmen's meeting?
We have to outlaw birthdays in the city.
Well, no. No, well, no, they have to have the insurance no matter what. We don't have that, we don't have that anymore. So I would say, it's the reason why it's in front of us is to waive the fee. So I would ask that we make a motion to waive the fee for all employees going forward, and give Angus that latitude to decide, to give, to give
But
Angus.
the problem is,
that
what
decision.
about the insurance?
No, you have to have the insurance no matter what.
that's right. And actually, just to circle back, so Glenn and Joe, you're both right. It is the insurance and it is the fee, because the initial request that came to me was, can I seek a waiver of insurance? I said, not anymore. And therefore, it turned into, how about a request for a fee waiver to basically take the edge off of the fact that they are looking to get insurance in place.
As an interim.
Exactly, and that should be made clear.
This is not establishing a long-term policy. This is
About what?
for This is because of the interim time of the insurance.
That's right.
We don't have the insurance.
Right, we've made progress on exploring this tulip policy. We put in the application, and we're basically providing some follow-up information to get a tulip policy. And as you know from the prior meeting, the idea there is to both really minimize the renter's inconvenience and headache associated with getting insurance, and in all likelihood, it will also save cost. But until that's in place, we're in this in-between time.
They're gonna have insurance.
They will have insurance,
We don't
yes.
have that ability anymore. Everybody
Right.
has to have insurance.
Yep.
So I move to waive the fee for whoever employee for a child's birthday party on January 19th, 2019.
Second.
With the stipulation that they have the insurance.
Well, they have
Yeah,
to have the
yeah.
insurance, yeah. That's part of our application. They have to have it. We always had to waive it. So, second, discussion. None? Okay. But I kind of want to discuss the whole premise of this thing. Can we just give, from now on, can we just give Angus the authority to waive the fee where he sees fit?
I'm a little uncomfortable with that, because I feel like that is a discretionary thing, and I don't want to be in a position of playing favorites.
He could be accused of favoritism.
Right.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye. If there was, for example, Glenn, to your earlier suggestion, if there was, let's say, the board adopted a policy that the fee wouldn't apply to employees, that's a non-discretionary, that's something I can implement very easily. Whether that's a good policy or not is up to the board. But I wouldn't want to be in a position of making a judgment call on waivers.
I got you.
Wait, Glenn, let's wait till we get
I got
the-
you.
get
You're
the
right. You're right. So
insurance,
it can be all complete
Yeah.
at one time. But one thing that I would ask that when we waive these fees, that they have to abide by the rules. That we waive the fees, but they can't leave all the trash in the building. They have to abide by everything. If they don't abide by the contract or whatever you want to call it, then that fee is then imposed. You can't waive a fee and then they leave the room not the way they're supposed to after the terms of that application that they fill out, where they're supposed to take the trash out, there are certain conditions that they have to meet while being in one of our places. So if we're definitely going to waive a fee, that we want to make sure that they meet those expectations. So people have to understand that we're waiving the fee, thank you, happy birthday, all that kind of stuff. But, if you don't meet these expectations, then you're going to have to pay the fees for us to go there and clean the trash up, get the malab, get the helium balloons off the ceiling, all those type of things. Okay, don't you think that? I agree, right? Or am I, okay.
That's good, that's good.
All right. Okay, next thing, Joe? Selectmen special article request for school stabilization. You asked for this to be on?
My vote, this is
Yep.
consistent to what we've done for the last past 4 years. I think this will be the 5th year. But since this is an article coming from the board, I felt that the board should vote on it.
Okay, it's a little early, right? Which
Somebody has to be first.
no, which is good. No, I know. So this is coming out of raise of appropriate, free cash. Okay. Okay.
There's nothing different than
Yeah, I understand.
accepted in that.
So, has anybody gotten any complaints about the tax bills that went out? That we went up a penny on our tax rate, but their tax bill went up 8%. And they want to know that, why their tax bill went up 8% when we're supposed to live within 2.5%. And I said, well, their evaluations might have went up. So our evaluations went up almost $50 million this year, collectively, as a town. So,
Actually, it was 52 million,
okay, 52 million.
Including new growth or?
not including
excluding
new growth.
Excluding new growth, okay. So
52
that's
The
million.
reason why that we had like an increase of over And then the first thing the person said to me this morning was, oh, that money's to pay for the new high school. And I said, absolutely not, you know, and all that kind of stuff. So we need to be cognizant of the fact that we're not increasing our tax rate, but an average tax bill went up almost $500 this past year. And we don't have any real projects, but I guess we don't have to, but we do because we're saving for it. Do you know what I mean by that?
I think that doesn't have any connection to the increase. The increase was driven by other areas. Because all this is the amount of retired debt. So this should.
This was level the past 3 or 4 years, pretty much.
So that's not what,
Yeah.
yes to what you just said, but that's not what.
If we didn't,
But I
no
understand
question
that.
about it, Glenn, if we didn't have this, taxes would be
Yeah.
lower. We
Because
can't
our-
argue that, that's correct.
Because our expenses went up $700 and something thousand over the previous year.
Probably too much in retrospect, I think.
Yes.
Yes.
So that, I'm just trying to do, when we get down to this,
You're putting it in context.
exactly, that's all I'm trying to do. So we have to,
I agree with you.
so when people think that, because again, what we said before, what I said before many times, where they probably don't think this so far in the future, but when people vote on debt, they expect it to come off eventually, because we told them it's going to come off. But we're not having it come off. We're applying it to future debt. You know what I mean? So there is some kind of, I wouldn't say.
This is kind of, this
shell
is like
game.
a Christmas club kind of thing. If people still have those, I don't know. I can never figure them out, but like a buck here, but whatever.
I was just talking about that 2 days ago, like why
They
don't-
always used to have those little things in the bank, but
I think,
But,
I think you bring about a
just-
good point. We really need to scrutinize the vote.
yes.
And when people should, I'm completely in favor of this. At the same time, when this comes to town meeting, they should understand exactly what this means.
Thank you. That's important.
Yeah.
Okay, so I don't want to vote on this just quite yet, but,
Why not?
okay. I'm going to use my line, or I think it was John McGrath's line. Is there going to be any new information to this thing that's going to change my mind? No, so. I haven't heard a motion yet.
I move to approve the special purpose education stabilization fund article as written.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Okay, I just want that we have a full explanation at town meeting of exactly how this is being done, why it's being done, and where it's coming from.
Right, if the.
And let them decide.
No, but I was gonna say, if the FinCom rationale doesn't seem clear enough, one of us should volunteer more information so that
Excellent.
everyone gets it. We're on board with it, but they should get it too.
Excellent,
Okay.
excellent. Okay, thank you, and thanks for doing this.
Can the town manager tell us what's in that?
Yeah, can I just vote on this first?
I'm sorry, I didn't really.
And then he can, you put him on the spot, so I'll let him, I'll let him, yeah, I'll let him vamp a little bit. All in favor? Aye. I'm just gonna kind of, well, no, I'm not gonna move on because it's up to him now, okay?
So as of June 30th, so the end of the prior fiscal year, it was at 1.25. The exact number is $1,250,268. So,
Is there any interest with that now, or probably a little bit?
oh, probably. Yeah, that's a good, well, actually, no, this is, I believe that's,
That's the money.
yeah,
that we-
let me say that's not.
That's the money that we appropriated.
That's the
to put
number, that's
into
the
it.
amount that's gone in.
Yeah,
Good-
so there could
good
be, it'll be a
point.
little bit
Yep.
more because of interest and,
Yep, right.
And the time we went to Vegas and tried, yeah, it's, yeah, okay. Okay, Angus, town manager updates, please?
Okay, so the first update is regarding the layout of office space. People who visit the town hall will see it's kind of like Back to the Future. The selectmen office space and Mary's office has moved back to what until last week had been the finance department, and the town accountant and the treasurer collector have moved back across the hall into the town manager office suite. The signage is been ordered and is imminent, but the move was made basically to help me have more of a finger on the pulse of the day-to-day finance operations and to cut down some of the running back and forth between. So I think the move went very smoothly. I want to specifically thank both the staff, the DPW crew, and the director, who I think did a terrific job of coordinating everything. We had Dot Kavanaugh and Gail De Niro were part of it, and it was a real team effort, and basically it was done in almost entirely in one day, one work day, and then there was just one carryover that went to Friday morning, as well as the tech and the IT transfer, but it went very smoothly, and I think at a staff level, every last person feels very happy about the change, so.
Okay. Update on the preparation of booklet of Board of Selectmen policies.
Okay, this is something that goes back to last August. You'll recall there was a memo that set out a list of all of the policies the selectmen have adopted over many years, and for about 20 of them, we had some specific red lines that were primarily housekeeping to more fully implement the new form of government. But there were 7 policies that were referred out at that time for additional input. And so I've been working with department heads over the last couple of months and working with Mary. Our goal is to put together a book of selectmen policies that's kind of a definitive that everyone can rely on and know that there's no outdated policies that are just gathering dust, but that everything in there is current policy and reflects current thinking. So at this point, I've received input back from all of the department heads listed, town council, police chief, DPW superintendent, water superintendent, and so I am, we're very close to bringing forward that booklet for you, and within that, some specific recommended changes in some of the policies listed. So I basically wanted to provide this as a status update, recognizing it's been 4 months or more since you last saw it, so that when it comes back, whether that's at the next meeting or in February, that it's not like, oh, what's this? So
Okay.
it's something that's been kind of humming along in the background.
Joe?
So in that, that booklet, I don't know if there's no index here. So does that include things like the approved investment policy, live and house policy, right of first refusal policy?
So
Those have been separate from the selected operating policy?
right, and those would be separate. So the draft that we've got basically, yeah, I say it's a definitive reference, but it's the intent's to have a definitive reference of what it is. But in the draft we've got right at the beginning, we say there's a disclaimer, and this, you haven't seen this, so this is a draft, but there's a disclaimer. This booklet does not include the following board policies which are published separately, and what I have listed under that at this point is the committee handbook, financial policies, personnel policies, rental of town facilities policy, special events policy, and the traffic rules and orders. So there may be other things, it sounds like, that, like the right of first refusal that you mentioned, that would need to be added to that. But yeah, I don't want to get, because then it would be unwieldy.
Yeah, no, I wasn't
Yeah,
suggesting
right.
put it together. Where I was headed though was wherever you put this for people to look at, all of those should probably be there, all those separate.
Totally agree with that.
So you got one
Yeah.
place to go for policies and not all over the place.
We're totally on the same page. That's exactly where we're going to
Perfect.
go. So,
Update on ongoing reviews by town committees, commissions of the Mill Pond Management Plan. So this is just an update about the process. We're not going to be talking about any aspect of what we want to do or what we want to change up there at this point. Angus?
yeah, we've heard back from a couple of the committees and commissions that had been sent this for comments. There are 2 others that we're still waiting on comments. I'm hoping we'll have those in the next week or so, but once we have a draft that reflects all the input, then that's when we'll put it before this board and invite everybody in and have a discussion about potential changes. But one thing that is somewhat time sensitive is, if we want to hit this spring town meeting, is that paragraph 16 of the management plan, which sets out the process by which it's amended. So that's something.
Is there, sorry.
Yeah,
Is there-
once we have a draft, you'll have it in front of you.
You've been waiting for feedback for a while for these people.
Yes.
Is there a point where we say, okay, we've asked, we need to move forward?
I think there is.
You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
just like, because if we have deadlines.
Yeah, I mean,
Same deadline and
yeah, I mean, just, but for example, Conscom, they met on this, they had comments, they just haven't written them up and sent them, so it's like
Well, they
they're
had a meeting tonight
close.
for 5 minutes, and then they have already left, so.
Well, they've already set, my understanding is they've designated a scrivener to write up their comments, and so it's in
So
that
what do you
person's
think
court.
is a good date, so if we need to make changes on this, they can make a warrant article out of this, and they close on February? So you tell me, we want all our comments in by January 22nd?
Probably by the prior Thursday,
Whatever
so that
that
we
date
could
is.
have it into your
We've given
packet for the
everybody
meeting on the
enough, yeah.
22nd. I think that's a good, yeah, I'll send
It's
that.
not the Constitution.
Yeah, I'll send that. And it's not the last bite at the apple, so I'll send that note around.
Okay, thank you. Update on the status of the page generator. We're thinking alike, Archie. I already had it on. Oh,
I'm
were you here for that?
I'll take that one again.
I have bated
Oh.
breath, I can't wait.
We would have, were you waiting for that? Do you have anything else? that
Oh,
you
I
want?
got a couple of things.
We could have
They,
brought that up
they
earlier.
tested it during the week of school vacation week. I heard it went well on their part, the contractor's part. We're gonna do our own inspection with the contractor. They wanted to do a pre-inspection just in case something was wrong. They would have it fixed. They did some adjustments, and I heard it went very well. I sent an email today asking them about when we're gonna do our final inspection. They told me that they'll get back to us, so I believe it's working, it's running. We're gonna inspect it with the consultant, FT, whoever the consultants are we got, and then we'll sign off on it. So they got an interest to get it signed off because they want to get paid. So hope to hear back.
So how much of the building is runnable on the generator now?
Oh, it's a good question. I'm not sure. It's a pretty big generator. I think that generator could run a lot. I have to ask Greg exactly what the spec was on that. It's a very large generator. I'm assuming it's going to run most of the building. This isn't just an emergency light generator. This is a 60,
Well, it's supposed to be a lot, exactly.
Yeah.
Encompass a lot more than the previous one did.
I think it runs the school.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
it could be open for
That's my
business,
understanding.
yeah.
It should be running when everybody else is out of power. They'll
Yeah.
have school.
Okay.
The kids aren't going to want to hear this, but you'll still have power.
Okay, Angus, did you have anything you wanted to add to this? Nope. Thank you, Wayne. Does that answer your questions?
Yeah, that's pretty.
Could
How's
you-
no, one other question. How's the find out what the noise situation is. See if like classrooms near that can function when it's running.
We'll test that when we're out,
Yeah.
If
when
you,
we're out there.
instead of coming to another meeting, after you get all these things with the consultant or whomever, if you could just give us hey, it's finished, it's done.
Yep.
The check went out in the mail on Tuesday, this is what the findings were, and all that, and just send it to Angus, and he can send it
Yep,
to us.
we could do that.
Is that okay with you? Yeah. And if we have any questions, we can have them come in or whatever. Okay, thank you. Update on water department capital projects, including water tank and well-field chemical building.
All right, well, I think the memo sums it up. I didn't include all the detail in terms of the numbers, but the bottom line is that both bids for the chemical building at the well field and the Briggs Hill water tank came in significantly above budget. And so the Water Commission will meet tomorrow. I'll attend their meeting, and we'll be working on what the next steps are. That could range from, in the case of the chemical building, scaling back the building to try to meet the project budget, or it could end with the Water Commission deciding to seek additional borrowing support in order to do both projects based on the approved scope or the desired scope. So it's a tough situation. They're small projects in the scheme of things, and so contractors maybe aren't pricing that aggressively. We're also told that the steel tariffs and where these both happened before the end of the calendar year, there was a lot of uncertainty at that time about what would happen on January 1st, and so we think that the contractors maybe were hedging, but it's...
Should we put it out to bid again? See if that's the case, and now people know there's these tariffs really, whatever, or no? Or is it, you only get one bite of the apple?
Is that a but.
I know, but is that,
It makes sense.
the only, yeah, that's the one bite of the apple thing. See, my concern on this, and I don't know if you want to relay this to the water commissioners or not, but in a delicate way, that are we going to be using the same consultants that really gave us the numbers so we could go to town meeting to be able to bid this out? Are we going to be Howard and whomever? I mean, they've been very good to the town, but maybe we need to, a second opinion or something. I don't know, but are we now going to use the same people that gave us the wrong numbers again?
I'm like 0 for 10 with engineering consultants with bids. They're all off right now because the economy moves so fast right now that they can't keep up with the prices. I tell you, every estimate I got in the last year and a half has been 40% off. So now,
Anything down or all up?
Oh, they're way too low, the estimates. So every time I get an estimate of 1 million, I say 1.3 or 1.4 because I can't trust anything out there now. And with the with all the contractors, with all of them full out, with full employment, they're all marking up all their prices.
So if they get the job, they get it, and then they can do it with subs and stuff, and if they don't get it, they really don't care.
That's correct. They already got enough work.
Because they're already busy.
Like a chemical building, it might have a little bit of steel in it, but we're not talking like, this isn't like
The Eiffel Tower.
I know.
I mean, you could bid again. Obviously, you could bid 30 times. I mean, if it's over your estimate, you could bid again. It's a gamble because now, if we can't afford this first round of bidding anyhow, it's really not a gamble because if the next bid comes in twice as high, we weren't doing it anyhow because it was already too high. But the chances are when you rebid, they have an idea what the prices are. If they know there's not many guys out there doing the work, they go higher because they know somebody else is going to drop out, they know what he bid. Or if they decide they're competing against each other, they know what the low bid is and they might try to go a little lower than that to get the job, if they really wanted it.
The other possibility is maybe the scope is too optimistic or too, you can diminish the scope a little.
You could try, but it's just so much work out there right now that they have bigger things to do. And this is small to them. They rather work in
And those bids that
downtown.
they're open, they're all public information now, so they can just come and get them and see what it was, see what somebody else bid, and they could
Oh,
just.
that's a good point too, yeah.
If you really want the job, it's good for us because they could see what the prices were and try to
Do it lower, say, hey, yeah,
below that.
they couldn't afford that, let's just do it $50,000 less, and they're gonna take it, and we know we can do it for that, and make money.
But I don't think we had a lot of people bid on it.
No, we just had two bids on the tank and 3 bids on the chemical building. Is that right, Mike? Yep.
So it's a good chance it's going to come the same. If you have 15 people bidding on it, you might have.
How many people
Make
build
tanks.
water tanks?
Yeah.
It seems
Not
like
many.
a very specialized business.
Yeah, you would think.
They're all in Ohio.
Are they?
Yeah, that's the business.
Oh, that's where the bids came from, Ohio? Okay.
So we'll have better direction after tomorrow's meeting, and I think I'll keep this on the agenda because these are very important projects for the town.
So they need to,
So what happens to what is the bond, so tell me what the bond is doing if we're not spending the money, what's going on?
So it's, on the water tank, it's been used to pay the soft costs up to this point,
what is soft cost?
the engineering.
In the clearing of the whatever?
Yeah, the roadway clearing.
Okay, so say,
Path, yeah.
say they decide not to, they can't
do it.
Can't swing it, so then what happens to all that money that was borrowed?
We're paying interest on it.
Yeah.
I don't know. In some debt I've worked on in other towns, we would have no prepayment penalty, but I don't know if that's how this was set up. So I don't know if you can
It
just.
could be a question tomorrow that we.
Yeah, no, I'm gonna look into that tomorrow with the treasurer.
One thing, I know we're gonna talk about, what we wanna talk about the other selectmen, at the meeting about the middle school and high school. I don't know how much longer it's gonna be this advantageous to borrow money. You know what I mean? Borrowing money is not a bad thing when the interest rate's this low. You know, the government should have been borrowing money to fix our roadways for a long time, and they haven't been doing it. So I think that's something that we want to make sure that we convey, that, borrowing now and doing it, it could be, it's a good time.
That's a very good point, but I'll give you one, I just read this in the Wall Street Journal this afternoon, though, that mortgage rates have actually, in the past month or so, have actually gone down for some, so
that's a good thing.
that's a good, so in terms of borrowing money, everything isn't necessarily going up.
But it's gonna go up.
It's going to go up, but at the moment, it's.
They thought it was going to go up, but the economy is still so strong. We're not at an inflation, so they were hedging the bet and trying to bring it up a little bit because they hadn't brought it up for so long. But we're already in a prolonged growth or economic whatever that's been longer than anything we've ever experienced in the near future. It's these things aren't gonna last this long, much longer, I don't think. Okay, next is update on efforts towards compliance with OSHA. I'd like to think that we're compliant already, but
I think it's, yeah, so this is really, a continuing effort, and it's going to affect, it takes effect February 1st. It's going to affect all of the different locations of, town operations, so that's town offices, senior center, fire, police, DPW, and library. So each of those departments or locations is going to need a responsible party for different parts of this, and one thing I've highlighted in here is this hazard communication protocol. This is the thing with the SDS sheets and all the chemicals and cleaning products that you buy. That's all got to be indexed, added to your binder, communicated to employees. It's a pretty tedious thing. So one of the, really, I guess the policy question I have for the board, I've included in here a draft hazard communication program, and adopting something like this is a requirement. And I'm looking, and I've been working primarily with Mary to this point. I've been looking at the 1910 building as kind of a guinea pig to get something that we think is workable, makes sense, and then to export that to the other locations, such as the library. So my question is, for something like this, what I think would make sense is, since we're working on selectmen policies, to look to this board to adopt a policy that basically says, all town departments shall be organized to comply with OSHA, something that kind of broadly frames what needs to be done, and then maybe leave some of the details of this to my office.
Yeah.
I'm happy to bring it to you guys. I just,
any discussion?
Angus, my only comment is, in my experience dealing with unbelievable numbers of OSHA, I just told Glenn, my MSDS is like that thick. I have so many chemicals and whatever.
But I moved that motion. Do I have a second on it?
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. So could you please read the motion again for me, Angus?
So that the Board of Selectmen adopt a policy that sets out the objective that all town departments shall be OSHA compliant and shall put in place
of the town manager.
procedures and assign responsibilities as necessary to meet that objective.
Okay, that was the motion. Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
My only comment is that it seems like a lot of departments are very specific in their, would be very specific in their OSHA requirements. It seems like the department head should be more aware of than say you would have to be. In other words, the water department is going to have totally different issues than the library versus
Maintenance.
conservation. Yeah. There's the issues are very different because some people are working outside, some people are working with
chemicals,
material,
some aren't.
Exactly. The differences in jobs are dramatic, and I think it seems like the department head should be responsible for those particular things.
You're talking yourself into do it. You want to do it? You want to head this for the town?
No.
But he actually is right. So I guess the guinea pig of the town, of the 1910 building, I guess is a good idea, but that's not going to apply. The guinea pig is going to have to look different.
Well, right, and I should be clear. I was speaking really just about the hazard communication, and I should say that I think the fire department is really way ahead of everyone else. I met with Mike Dwyer early in the fall. He's got a really very strong program in place. I know Wayne is very knowledgeable on this stuff, and he's been, obviously, as he's getting to know the locations and the staff. So I think, some of the departments where there's the bigger hazard, and then water, of course, we had this training on trenches this fall that was terrific. Just today, do you want to speak, Mary, briefly to the training that we set up for next month?
I didn't bring it with me.
Okay, we set up a training for next month that we're going to host through Maya, and we've sent that around to staff. That's on confined space,
Yes,
I believe.
that's what it was.
Yeah.
Yep.
So,
Wayne looked into.
so I think we're doing pretty well, but there's a lot of details.
I mean, this ergonomic thing.
Yes.
Just like,
Yep.
which wouldn't apply to some people, but would be very important to other departments.
There's some people that find this massively interesting. It gives me kind of one of those ice cream headaches when I eat my ice cream too much, and it gives me a headache. So, I mean, you guys can do it. If you want to speak to it, be my guest, but you don't feel like you need to.
We're setting forward to the confined space in February, and we'll just slowly chug away. I know DLS is offering free classes to help us too on OSHA, which I already got one because we got caught doing something, but we got a free class out of it. So
In Newburyport.
In Newburyport,
Yes.
not here. So
I didn't want to say anything, but Wayne, but come on,
I'm very familiar
over
with them.
there.
So they're there to actually help. They're not there to actually attack us and to go after us. They're actually there to help us through the guide. So we do have contacts over there that we could reach out to.
Perfect.
So
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Okay, update contract with MVPC for MS4 storm water management support. You wanna?
while I'm still here, we have a meeting next week with Merrimack Valley to discuss the contract that I think is in your packet that you gave them.
We have it.
So we're going to start with that, and we give them some priorities and a timetable to get us at least going in the right direction. I think our first two things we want to do was a bylaw policy for development, for subdivision development.
Erosion control, sediment control, both during construction and then post-construction. Those are both requirements of the MS4. And so what we think is going to be the simplest way and cleanest way is to have relatively simple language in the site plan review bylaw, possibly the subdivision regulations, that would cross-reference separate regulations that would be adopted under the authority of to be determined, whether that's planning board, board of health, this board, but that would give regulations that can be more nimble over time, but language that goes to town meeting that basically authorizes the adoption of those regulations. So we've got this stormwater working group, and we've got different people working on different things, but after several months, it really became clear we were gonna need some outside support, so we brought MVPC in.
Okay, thank you. Update on senior citizen property tax work-off program.
One thing you'll learn, I'm not going to just bring good news to you, I'll also bring to you when things don't go quite smoothly, and we learn from that. So, the memo kind of sets out the details, happy to speak to that, but I do just want to really take the opportunity to thank those participants in our senior work-off program. We really value what they do. There was a little bit of confusion about whether the tax abatement was considered income. It is not considered income under state guidelines, but the IRS does consider income. So basically, it's just subject to some withholdings. And so that's something that hadn't happened for a couple of years, so there was an understanding that that was how it was, but really, it is subject to that. So that's how we implemented it.
Is this a new IRS ruling? Or
No, this is how it's been. It just, for a couple of years, it kind of fell by the wayside and was just deducted at the gross amount. And
Laurie went to a seminar and realized it.
that's right. Yeah, this past June, all of the finance staff and assessing staff went to a seminar. They emphasized this, and so it was kind of agreed it's got to be done differently this year. But the communication was poor, and the coordination wasn't totally there.
Will it be a 1099 situation or a FICA situation?
So they file a W-4, and then it's a FICA withholdings.
So they're actual employees, in a sense.
In a sense, they are, yeah.
Okay.
So I think it was news to the the people that were participating in the work-off program, so that was kind of
Yeah.
communication, and people get nervous
Yeah.
about.
Had a lead, take it a lead.
Well,
Are they upset about that, or?
I think I'm going to send some letters to each of them to kind of take ownership of how this all happened. It came up the week when I was out at the office, and I think that compounded what maybe otherwise could have been. There was a little miscommunication there.
Through a couple of departments, but we're all on board now.
Yep, we're all working together.
Thank you. Update on FY '20 budget and capital planning process.
So you have in the packet the budget package that went around to all department heads and all chairs of boards, committees, or commissions that have oversight of any section of the budget, small or large. We had and this really built on precedents that I'd seen from prior finance directors, as well as some things that I have done, and so I think it was a good package. I think people found it helpful. We had a meeting actually this morning with department heads and staff, and very open-ended, interactive meeting where people could ask any questions they had about what to expect from the process. I think that was positive. That went well. So the departmental budgets are due to me by the end of this week. The board and commission budgets are due to me by the end of next week, and then in the subsequent 4 weeks or so, I'm going to be putting together the overall town-wide budget, which will be presented both to this board and to the FinCom no later than February 15th. And then, one thing I did put in, we obviously had the budget message that this board adopted. I also put in some notes to that, just to hopefully preemptively answer some questions that I thought people would have if they didn't have the notes. And I think people found that helpful.
Can I talk about, it kind of goes back to my comment about tax bills that went out and the expenses of last year, and we said we are going to try to streamline the budget. I think we talked about that. Is there a way where they brought in, is there a way that you can give us something that looks like, the budget requests that come in, but it's like a budget that's level funded, which is actually a decrease because it goes, things go up, and then a budget that's $100,000 and then $200,000 less than the expenses of last year, just so we understand what that really means, and you know what I mean by that, or I'm kind of stuck on the level funded part of it. I'd like to see that, how that really affects us, because that's not, because we know the expenses are going up more than, so you understand? So the other numbers I'm not really stuck to, but I'd like to have, just so we have a good understanding of, maybe we want to cut back a few expenses and stuff that we increased a significant amount last year. Let's bring, like the police. The police had a significant amount of expenses last year. So what do you think?
No, I agree. Yeah, the police went up, and now we've got some contracts that even if we cut, it's not going to go down that much.
No, but we have personnel that, we have, extra
We
personnel.
added officers.
Yeah, we might realize that.
No, I think
You understand what,
I do, basically.
So we get a good understanding of what's going on.
Yeah, so if that was the direction to say a level funded, and that was kind of the broad direction you gave hypothetically, what would it take to do that, taking into account the fixed increases, including the union contracts and so forth? What would be?
I get you, yeah.
Yeah, I think that would be an instructive exercise. I think it would be helpful. It's something I could do.
Because then we could say, hey, how do we get there? We might have to move some personnel around, or we might not, or we might, do some job sharing. We might. You know what I mean by that? Yes. Just something more, at least, listen, I want people to know that we're just not throwing together a budget and just increasing the taxes every year, that we're really taking some good time into understanding what this really means, and then let town meeting decide what kind of level they want. I mean, but at least we've gone through the...
And there have been situations where we wanted to say no to things, and they said, no, we want to bump it up, but that's their prerogative. Yeah.
Of course, they're the body, yeah. Is that all right with you? We give them some direction? Okay, good. Did you have anything else on? Okay, no, you did that. Anybody have any questions on anything that we talked about?
Just so I can clarify, so that would be at the time of presenting the budget in mid-February, right? Not for like next meeting?
Right,
I just wanted to be clear.
I was hoping tomorrow.
I was gonna say, yeah, we're ending early tonight. I was wondering, there's no, there is a game on, but I was gonna say, maybe there's something I can have my sandwich with, look at tonight. Okay, anything else, gentlemen? It was my mistake that I did not put things on future agendas on here.
My mistake.
I was taking the blame for that. But that means, that doesn't mean that, please talk.
I do have, if you'd like, I have a list of things for tentative for whether it's next meeting or the future, and then you can fill any gaps. So, we do expect a request from the Energy Advisory Committee to submit a Green Communities grant. At some point, they may come forward.
Okay, stop. Can we, I'm sorry, I'm not like rude, but these grants, right, that are coming in, they take a lot of work and a lot of, and I think Angus has mentioned this before. So when people are submitting these grants, it's almost like, hey, we want to do this grant, we're going to get $50,000 for the town, we might get it, we might not get it, and then all of a sudden, we say, oh, that's terrific, and then we kind of walk away from it, and then the person the next day is at Wayne's desk, or at Mike's desk, or is at Angus's desk, and they're trying to get this grant done. During the process, before people, when I first was on the board, no one had to come to the Board of Selectmen to apply for a grant. There were people just applying for grants. And then we said, hey, we would like a little bit of control over this because some of these grants are actually costing the town money. So we would kind of like to see what the scope of these grants are before we say yes to something and have the town sign up for it. So that was the purpose of it. So I like to know when people come in, hey, listen, how much work is it going to take for the town to do this? Or are you applying for this? Because a lot of the times I'm just assuming these committees are doing these on their own. And then we're finding out, no, this is taking a ton of manpower by other town employees, which I'm not saying is a bad thing, but we just have to understand the scope of it before we say yes, and all of a sudden they plop this down and say, this is due next Tuesday, Angus, I need 15 hours of your time, Mike, I need 10 hours of your time. But I mean, that's reality, you know.
Yeah, that's a non-starter.
But that's happening now.
It is happening now. What I'm going to suggest, which I think would be great, so as you know, you have a selectman policy on grant applications, and it specifies that they come to get authorization and that to allow projection of future town cost effects that could result. Perhaps we broaden that to say cost and manpower effects, or something that kind of says what's the work plan, who's doing what. I think that would be very constructive. I think it would be well received, because I think it's in everyone's interest to know, to go into it as wide open. The administration of the grant. And the closeout, the grant closeout is a big thing
something that you
too.
have to fill out at the end.
Yes,
too.
that closeout
After
piece.
everything's all gone, oh, we gotta fill out the report at the end.
Yeah.
Is that all right with you?
Yeah.
So I move that we make that part of the grant policy thing. Right?
Yeah, we'll work on a draft on that. I think that's great.
You do a draft on that, but I want to make sure, okay.
Yep.
Sorry, so you stopped it.
So the next thing, the Green Communities, or I'm sorry, the Energy Advisory Committee did a microgrid study of this area, and Mike was closely involved, and we had a conference call to close that out a couple of weeks ago, and there was a little money left in the grant, and the firm that did the work is based in Philadelphia, and so we asked them, with the money remaining, could you come present the findings? That way it's not just sitting there, but they're actually here, ask questions. So they submitted a proposal, we accepted it, so they will be at the next selectmen meeting to present the microgrid study.
Okay.
So I think that's...
Can I ask just a simple question? What's a microgrid?
The idea is to
So I understand
look at this
before they go
building and the public safety building as kind of a campus, and to see if we could have basically a redundant energy source that could help in the event of outages, or could help reduce the carbon footprint of these buildings. Is that fair summary, Mike?
It's an interconnect.
I got you.
Building here, and then
So like that big big generator that sits behind the public safety building, maybe we could connect that over here, so when everything goes out, instead of buying a new one, just an example, I'm not saying that's even, I'm not even sure that's spec'd out for that, but something like that.
They did a whole study.
A little more comprehensive, but that's kind of.
Yeah, just
Or
layman's.
using renewable energy.
That's where they want to go. They don't like generators.
Well, it could be coconut oil.
Okay?
Next item, the Mill Pond Management Plan, as you know. The continued review of the open space and rec plan that had initially been penciled in for tonight was pushed back to allow enough time.
Okay, so those three things you just mentioned, okay, if we do them properly, and these people are coming in from Philadelphia, and they sure as heck don't want to hear me talk, or me say, okay, I've had enough, they're going to want to talk and get their money's worth. So that's probably an hour. The Mill Pond Management thing, if we bring everybody in, that's an hour. The Park and Recreation thing.
I thought we were done with that.
No,
The open space and rec plan?
yeah, that's what I said to him. He said-
Well, and if you are, that's fine. I
have
think
no
their
comment?
understanding is they were going to come back with a revised.
Again.
Yeah, I mean, we don't have to approve it, they ask us, right? They ask us just for our opinion, we gave our opinions to them already. Or if we didn't, is it the fact that if they didn't put our opinions in that we don't have to approve it? Or can we make them?
There was the last page or so, there was something that they wanted selectmen input, but I believe Patricia Reeser said that we could use the boilerplate that we had used in the past on that.
In terms of a letter of support.
Like a,
Right.
Yeah.
So ask them if there's anything more that we need to do.
I think maybe Joe might have something to add.
Well, if they're asking for a letter of support, what did they change? We were kind of, we did give them some specific direction, but it didn't include a lot of recreation things. So what have they done to change that or not?
That's good. Well, actually, that's actually a good question.
That's true.
Yeah. So we're going to give them a letter of support. That's a boilerplate. We made some suggestions. Did they incorporate those in there? That might be. That's a pretty basic question. Thank you, Joe. Okay, if we could ask that, and you can just ask them that question for us.
I know she sent an email and addressed one of those things I was critiquing, but.
Okay. Okay, next. So we can put it on then.
And this, I guess, is a question. So the boards and commissions are reviewing their own budgets for submittal to me. I have written in review of staff proposed FY20 budget of the selectmen's budget, not the whole thing, not the whole town-wide budget, but your section of the budget. Is it typical for you to review that this early in the process? Because it's due to,
Just
Ours.
yeah, so basically Mary's,
That changes, so we
Yeah.
haven't done that.
okay, so if you don't need to, we can work on that but I had that as a placeholder, so we might.
We can do that in 10 minutes.
Yeah,
Let's
so,
put together what we had this year and level fund it
yep.
and whatever. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Glenn's salary.
There you go. Okay.
Let's see. Review of that Board of Selectmen policy booklet, I'm now thinking that's probably a little
No,
further
we're not
out.
doing that. We've already got. We're 3.5 hours in.
Yeah.
As we're talking.
We've also got discussion that night of the contingency plan for the PSRD.
That has to be on there.
Right, so we got a pretty full plate.
Okay, Joe. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you had some notes.
I'm good, yeah.
Did I mention anything to you when we were doing that? I don't remember. Because when I said we can put that on future agenda, so did you already handle that? The valuation thing, the availability, the budget message, the budget, maybe it was the budget. That one. Okay, no, I have nothing then.
So I just have a question about some of the things in the community compact that we had discussed before. Are we gonna, just in the interest of time, we went through the easy ones, but then there were some other ones. Are we gonna wanna hash those out for town meeting articles, or are we gonna wait till the fall?
Why don't we wait till the fall? We have a lot on our plate. and I think we passed the ones that we did, and let's get through this budget thing. This is the first real budget time that Angus has done this, and then be able to really spend the time that we really need to hash those out and bring them in the fall. That would be my suggestion.
I know the board's policy, direction for the budget was by the end of this fiscal year to have those substantially done. Some of them may be board votes, not town meeting votes. I don't know. I would personally not recommend trying to get something onto town meeting, although I know, like, for instance, Investment Advisory Committee is looking at a specific section of the policy.
And I just, they're gonna, I think once they start to look at that, that's gonna be a lot of time on their part. I don't think they'll be ready.
Yeah.
If they really do due diligence. I mean, we, and, one of the bank directors, we wrote the original draft of it, and if they're looking to learn it.
So why don't we hold those up into the fall, unless you have some?
Well, I think if there's things that can be adopted under this board's authority, that could happen maybe in May and June.
Okay,
And then,
I was just wondering how we left it after we finished the rest of them.
Okay, that I don't mind. I don't want to start trying to rush through those things to get them for a warrant, and then we're not done, and say put placeholders on it, and then we're telling other people that the warrant's closed, but we have placeholders. It's just, I don't think, is that all right with you? Yeah. Okay, anything else? Jen?
Can I just ask, Selectman Anderson, are you gonna run again this year? Are you considering a run?
Yes.
Did you pull papers yet?
I have it in my mailbox.
Oh, I thought she was talking.
He has a request.
I always thought she was.
But I haven't handed it to you.
I thought she was talking about.
Goals for the upcoming term? I mean, is there anything that you want to finish, or is there a reason, like, why are you running again, I guess is the question.
Why am I running again?
I mean, the brief version.
You asked.
I'll follow up for a longer one, just in general.
Well, I think we've accomplished a lot. I think we've done well with the whole form of government process. So I think there's a lot more to do, primarily focused on the school area. And I'm not involved as much on the construction side, but I've been a voice on the funding side, so I'd like to be an advocate to help get it passed.
Thank you.
Good.
I do have one question.
I thought she was talking about your physique, like, are you going to start running again? She didn't say anything about, for selectmen. Because you used to run all the time. Okay, you have a question?
One thing the board had on my, I think on my 6-month kind of punch list was a mailbox policy, and I have asked Wayne to start work on that. And I want to know, is that something we should be pushing? Because he has been working on that.
I know. Yeah, can you put that on?
Wouldn't be popular.
Yeah, put that on the same night. Just try to get somebody with a barking dog that we have to move out of town. Because I think, the only thing I hate more than a mailbox policy is trying to tell somebody they can't have their dog anymore. It's easier to tell them they can't have their kids anymore. Yeah.
There is no solution.
Yeah, there is no solution. Angus asked for this to be on this agenda, and I said, I can't.
He told me, and I said,
I can't. So listen, come up with the policy, and what the problem is we have to have a policy, and we have to stick to it, and then you have to administer it. And we can't be taking phone calls from people and saying, and then we bring it back to the board.
But I'm special, I need special treatment.
Yeah,
There
Gary
can't be-
always did this.
No, there's either you abide by the policy and that's it. Once we have it, there can't be any exceptions.
Exactly,
Yeah.
we do that all the time, because you're not gonna be special. They're gonna say, well, Gary did it this way, and when Gary was saying no to somebody, they said Bert Knowles did it this way, the guy before him, and so forth and so on and so on. So, yes, that's a good idea, and let's just stick with it. But it has to be reasonable, and, obviously, if my mailbox goes down.
We'll wait till we have something that's really fully vetted, and if the boards, we could send drafts, you guys can't reply all, but you can reply just to me or just to Wayne, and that way by the time something comes forward, it's something that you think is good.
My mailbox was designed by Frank Lloyd Wright.
Okay, anything else? It was a good meeting until the mailbox thing came up, Angus, thank you. Anything else?
I move to adjourn.
Second.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.